Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Path of Daggers, Book 8 in the Wheel of Time. That's right, we've reached Book 8 already. Now, as a reminder, this is going to be kind of a spoiler discussion, part talking about different things in the book, and part review, but more so just kind of me talking about things with this book. So it will be filled with spoilers, so as always, if you haven't read this one, don't watch this video, but let's jump in from there. So this is the first book in what's considered to be the slog, something that you hear from a lot of people, and despite that, there's still quite a lot going on in here. And I mean, the whole thing with the slog, there's definitely some debate there. And I look at it a little differently than some, but I'm actually going to be doing a video soon talking about that. That was supposed to be this week. Now it's going to be next week, but it'll be coming out soon, just breaking down the different sections. But this is the first book in the kind of expansionist books where we're really slowing down. And this book and the next two are focusing on a lot of the same plot lines, but those plot lines are for the most part being set up with this book. So there's still a ton going on and a ton that is being set up. We do see in this one Elaine and Nynaeve, who are continuing the Bowl of the Winds plotline, involved with some of the other Aes Sedai and with the Kin and with the Windfinders and using the Bowl of the Winds. Now, right off the bat, I do want to say which Bowl of the Winds, not my favorite plotline, I'll say, but one thing I do really like is so they use it. And it's not like, okay, everything's good and the weather is fixed. Instead, and it's even brought up later in the book too about, the law of unintended consequences, basically, where they do this, but there's such a severe backswing from the change, basically, because we're at the point where it really should have been, already into winter, and it was still it was a really dry summer. So all of a sudden there's terrible rain and snowstorms, and it's not necessarily a good situation. So they've fixed the weather, but they've made some things worse in a lot of ways too. So I really like that kind of idea of it, and it also seems to have an effect on the One Power as well, which comes up later in the Rand plotline, which we'll get to talking about. And this does start one of the most notorious plotlines with Perrin somewhat, but more Fael, because we have Perrin, who is in Gildon and supposed to be dealing with the prophet Masema, and so we do get, with Perrin, I really like his scenes here, seeing him kind of trying to just fit the role that he's in and dealing with all these people, and the scenes with Alejandra, who is swearing fealty to him too. I like the way that those are handled, but toward the end of the book is where we get Fael, who is kidnapped by the Shido, and that's not one of my favorite plot lines, but we'll get more of that coming on as well. But there are, and that's the thing, so we get a lot, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's just more of a general thing, but we're going to get quite a lot more Perrin in the next couple of books. We did, Fires of Heaven didn't really have any Perrin, and so we start to get a lot more Perrin, and sometimes you'll get that where we don't get a certain character in one book pretty much, so we end up getting a lot more of them. See, the problem is, in this book, it's Matt. We end, in the book before this, with a cliffhanger at the end of Crown of Swords for Matt, and it's really? And now we get no Matt? And I still remember the first time I read that, because, really a fan of Matt. It's the start of what became one of my favorite plot lines with Matt. And so we don't get any Matt in this book, so that's definitely something that brings it down a bit. But we'll get some more Matt coming up as well, too. So we'll find out what happened with what was actually going on. But Jordan will do that a little bit. So it's kind of annoying, but is what it is. And then we get more of the Egwene with the Rebel Aes Sedai plot, and we start to get some more of the interesting bits there with her ploy to get the Hall to declare war on Elaida, which then lets her use parts of Tower Law, where anything that has to do with the war, she has complete control over. So it's just something that I like, because I get tired of the squabbling there, and so kind of still moving that one along too. Like I said, the plot lines though that are set up here are really going to be ones we're in for the long haul with, so nothing's going to be wrapped up particularly quickly, and that's what we get with these books, where we're slowing down, we're working on these longer plot lines and going from there. We do have a lot going on with Rand as well, and there's some multiple interesting things here with Rand, but the big thing with him is he is trying to, he's starting to kind of notice some signs of madness in the Ashaman, which he's worried about. But then he's also going and trying to fight back the Shan-Chan advance because, as we saw at the end of Crown of Swords, the Shan-Chan have started invading again, including Ibu Dar. And we saw that with them chasing Elaine and Nynaeve as they were leaving, and the whole thing with the gateway, which, as an aside, so the whole thing with unweaving the gateway and the explosion, and it being talked about like it's a new weapon, but I always feel like it has a weird amount of emphasis, because even like later in this book, it's brought up that like, no, not really, like you could do that and it could just be a flash of light and you could still have a chance of stilling yourself, so like you should never do that again. Like, why do we emphasize it so much if it's, I don't know. It just seems like a weird note to me. Anyway, getting back to Rand, though, so we get some cool battle scenes, and with the whole thing where he brings basically a lot of the nobles that he doesn't trust, and brings them into the battle, as well as bringing Ashaman, who are doing a lot of the actual fighting, and sends Narishma in order to get Kalendor, and ends up actually using Kalendor for the first time we've actually seen Kalendor used since Book 3, The Dragon Reborn. So pretty cool to see him. We find out some interesting things about Kalendor, including the fact that there is a flaw with it, and it said that it can, or at least Rand is told that it can only be used safely if he's linked with a woman, and the woman is controlling the flow. So an interesting tidbit that we get from Cadsuane, I believe. And so we get that, but he uses it, and there's also the issue, something going on with the power, and Rand just kind of goes nuts for a bit and ends up just calling lightnings everywhere, and yeah, definitely destroying some Shan-Chan and definitely destroying some of his own people. Gets in one of the interesting moments where he'd been repeatedly, Bashir's telling him, like, hey, you gotta retreat, we gotta be done, we've done enough here. And he keeps fighting, and after that, despite the fact that that's when he finally realizes he needs to be done, we also get the Shan-Chan that are, like, running scared, and so could he have pressed the advantage? Well, we'll never know, because, of course, that doesn't end up happening. And then, to add insult to injury, we get another big event when he returns back to Cairhien with several Ashaman trying to kill him. And so we get some betrayal in the ranks of Ashaman, which there was still a lot of questions about too, and kind of just starts to get the wheels turning with all the things too, where Lews Therin in Rand's head has been telling him he's got to kill all the Ashaman. We've seen Mazrim Taim, who is obviously a little shifty, and you cannot quite get a feel for him too, so then now you're wondering, like, is he involved? Were they really rogue? What's going on? And so we start to get a little bit more. We don't spend a ton of time overall up to this point at the Black Tower, so it's kind of just the parts that touch the Black Tower I always find very interesting, but pretty big thing happening as well. And so with Rand, like, trying to figure out who he can trust, even with the Ashaman, with the Aes Sedai, with everybody, and so it's continuing that string along of just what exactly can he really do in there as well. We do have some other plots going on as well, including in the White Tower, which I do actually really like. There's the plot in the White Tower where they're searching for Dark Friends, and they end up catching one of the Saladar Aes Sedai, the rebels, because they thought they caught her in a lie. We see, like, Alviar the Keeper is black, and that Masana's in the tower somewhere, which had been mentioned before too, kind of tugging the strings, so we get more kind of drama going on there. And we also have Cadsuane, which I'm not a really big Cadsuane fan, but she's in this one a decent amount as well, and is supposed to, according to a viewing from men, teach Rand something, and so he's trying to be civil, but I'm just like, I wouldn't put up with Cadsuane, to be honest. She's very annoying and just is like the epitome of the Aes Sedai who thinks she knows absolutely everything and is just owed all the deference in the world. So it's pretty annoying, but hey, it is what it is. But so that's a lot of different things that we get happening in this book. So there is a ton. Like I said, I definitely miss Matt in this one, but this is another one where it's been a few years since my last reread. This is another one that's a stronger book than I remembered. I remembered Crown of Swords being a little bit slow, and I didn't remember Path of Daggers as being really strong either, but the last two books have actually been a bit stronger than I remember them being in terms of plots and what's all being set up. So I'm feeling good. And granted, I've read it a bunch of times, and so I know a lot of the things that just, like I've mentioned in some of these other videos, sometimes it all blends together a little bit, and I'm like, I don't remember exactly what happens in which book. In fact, this scene, I could have sworn happened like a book or two sooner, and the scene with Rand and the Shan-Chan. I kept thinking that happened earlier, and then it didn't happen, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then we finally got to it. I'm like, it's been book 8. I thought it was a lot sooner than that. So some of them I get kind of mixed up with what happens there, too, in which book. It's all kind of one story. But so yeah, so at this point, I'm still having a good time with the reread. Winter's Heart is is not a favorite. So Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight are not necessarily the best books, but there's still some good things in there as well too. And we'll talk about those once we get to those videos as well. But we're getting close here. There's a lot of books that we've gone through so far with the first 8 and including New Spring. So it's pretty exciting that we're actually getting close to the end. So we got 5 books left, and they are large books, but we're set to finish up the buddy read. I think April, because there's November, December, January, February. So finishing in April. So still another a good chunk of time with some more Wheel of Time books, but I'm very excited to get through. Like I said, it's been a few years, so I'm excited to continue with the reread, and I keep going from there. And it'll be the first time too. It'll be nice to actually have a video for all of the books, which is something I've always wanted to do. So anyway, though, those really are my thoughts on The Path of Daggers, Book 8. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this book as well. Anything that you agree, disagree with anything I said, always interested in hearing that. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Duo Discord. If you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, any books, really anything at all, it is a lot of fun and we would love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.